Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are doing a quick one on how to restore screwdriver or bits. This is something that you can try in a pinch, or if you have your favorite screwdriver which you don't want to lose, and maybe try and get going again. I'm gonna try this today with the European Phillips kind, the crosshead screwdriver, and maybe some Torx bits, because they have an issue which makes it so that repairing them does actually kind of make sense. For tools, it's best to have a key file set. So these are very small files that are usually pretty hard and good for this to use with this tool steel. Also have like my sawtooth file, but these are kind of hard to come by, but useful if you have them. And a few smaller diamond stones that I usually use for knife sharpening or for these smaller tools. And I'm just gonna see what works best. So let's get going with the screwdriver. So for the screwdrivers, it is best to use a vise to kind of hold it in place and make your life a little bit easier. So as you can see, this one is pretty mangled, and I just want to see if it's possible to fix it. So I'm using my triangular file here. On this, you can see it's all pretty small, and I'm just gonna follow these contours and see if I can maybe grind this back to get it working again. So I've now done a pass with the screwdriver, and I tried around a bit. However, I think I have to say, with the normal crosshead bits, that doesn't really work. If you think about what we would need to do, is we would need to take the screwdriver, and because the end bits here have basically broken off, we would need to take this entire geometry and move it back up the shaft where there's fresh material, and we can fix those little points. To a small extent, I think this has worked this way, kinda. But the problem is, if you look at the lobes, we are thinning them out way too much. I don't know, you can see this is basically, as sharp as a knife. And I don't really think with hand tools there's a way to do this whole geometry precisely and for long enough that you get exposed fresh material and, get your screwdriver working again. Where it should work is maybe if it's just bent over a little bit, and the bent over steel will prevent it from engaging with the screw. But with the crosshead bits, it's not that much of a problem. Usually it just breaks off here and then it's done. And if it's bent over too much, you can't bend it back, you have to grind it away, and then it's basically comes down to the same thing. So for the crosshead bits, sadly, I think this isn't really possible. So here we are on to the next part, which is a Torx bit, which is, in my opinion, probably the best use case for this. Because what happens with these smaller Torx bits is usually the material kinda, like I said with the other one, bends over at the end. And what that does is it prevents the whole bit from engaging, because the tolerances on a Torx bit are much tighter than on like a crosshead bit, which is just stamped in. There's so much play in the screw, that's why they round out pretty easily. And these one are much better at this. So if you have a problem with it just being round over, it's probably possible to just grind this part out. And that means you can properly stick it into the screw head again, and then the rest of the material, like on the back here, will be able to engage. For this, I'm going to use my tiny DMT diamond stone, the little folding one, which is probably better than a round file. I guess in a pinch you could use a round file. The issue is that the file, it's not grinding, it is cutting, so that means it only works in one direction first of all, and only works if the cutting teeth can properly engage. As with the diamond stone, you can move around much more and it makes it easier. So I'm going to try and grind this down a bit and see how the geometry looks. This is not that badly damaged, but just see how it looks. So here we are after the grinding on the Torx bit. And with the Torx bit, it is a bit interesting. It definitely, I think it works better than the other one. However, it's still, you have to think about it this way. The outer geometry still has to, like, you can't remove a lot of material there. The outer diameter of these things will get too small if you just grind it down. Then your bit is too small. You can probably maybe create a smaller size bit this way, but you know, don't really repair it. But for those cases where the bottom material has folded over, this is definitely a way, you know, to fix it and play around a bit with your bit set if you get a more expensive one. You know, all these things, this is not, obviously, if you factor in labor cost, you know, it's not really worth it probably. But on a weekend to play around a bit with your tools, I think this is quite fun to do. And with the Torx bit, at least, this can work. That was it for this video. I hope you liked a little bit of, you know, playing around with some tools. I hope on the next video I can get into a little bit more laser stuff or a bit of a larger projects, because then I got more time for it. That would be great. Until then, if you still liked it, consider subscribing and giving the video a like, and then I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.